Good afternoon. I guess I'm waiting on him telling me to go. Oh, we're go. Okay, I heard a go over here. How are you guys doing? You guys have a good lunch? Yeah? Yeah? This is the hardest part to teach, period. Right after lunch, right? Ugh. Like the best thing right now is a siesta. That'd be the best thing right now. Okay, for those of you who don't know, my name is Dave Tucker. I started this whole clip thing, myself and my brother-in-law, Bill Wright. We started it back in 1987, I think, right when my son was born. You saw my son around here earlier today, and he'll be here a little bit later. And when he was born, that's when I sat down and started programming Clip, what would become Clip. We didn't have the name yet. So I've been with this thing for a long time, and a lot of you guys know me from way back. Those of you who have been coming to our conferences and stuff like that. And it's a great industry. I love being in this industry. I love working with you all. And basically what we see is we just see us, our slogan is your success is our passion. I've always seen myself as the kind of guy who just loves to create tools that help other people become successful. I was homeschooled most of my career, but the first 3 years of my elementary school, my mom sent me to a school. And in the school, I remember in second grade it was, where we learned about Roman numerals. And I thought that was really cool. You could count in a different way. That was kind of neat to me. And so I went home and I made, you have to realize this is in the 60s, okay? So there's no copying machines, and they had mimeograph machines. Boy, those smelled good, didn't they? Fresh mimeograph, yeah. All right. So I sat down and I made a Roman numeral dictionary, and I made 3 copies, and I think it was 3 pages long or something like that, with numbers on one side, Roman numerals next to it. I gave 1 copy to the teacher, I gave 1 to the class, and I kept 1 for myself. And why do I tell that story? Because I look back on it and I say that was my nature back in second grade. Was I saw a need for a tool, and I just enjoyed creating the tool. And that's what I've done basically my whole life, been doing this. And, of course, Clip is just this huge tool that you guys use. You guys surprise me every once in a while with the way you're using it. You'll tell me, well, I don't do that, but I do this. You're like, wow, that's a creative way of using it. We created this tool. So anyway, I've enjoyed very much, been doing this now for 30 years. Love it. I love having relationships. I consider a lot of you guys my friends, and your companies have succeeded. I was talking to somebody last night that is, I guess, no, who was it? Huh? No, anyway, I don't know. I don't remember, but started with Clip when they started their company, and now is running the 9 crews and doing piecework and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's just great to see that. It's great to see that we were able to conglomerate some ideas and bring them together, and then you guys can use them. And that's what this presentation is, 30% profit. Most of you guys have heard me say it before if you've been to any of our conferences. But what it does is it sort of gels everything you've been talking about. It's been boring. You've been talking about customers' names and addresses and jobs and schedules and adjust schedule and all this kind of stuff. And you're kind of like, yeah, but yes, it's going to help me run my business, but how is it really going to affect me? How is it going to affect my life? How's it going to have something? Because you can have the greatest tool, but if it doesn't actually come down to something real in your life, then what good is it? So one of the things I want you guys to do is I have written 2 books, because I found out that writing books is a good way to disseminate information out. So I think Bill has already talked to you a little bit about this one on piecework. If you're not paying your employees by the piecework, then I want everybody to have one of each of these books, a copy of each of these books. So they're going to be up here. I'll just leave them here. Come up and get one if you want it. One's on piecework. The first book I wrote was called The Beautiful Business. And the idea behind A Beautiful Business, the reason I got the title The Beautiful Business about lawn maintenance is because I always, when I say to somebody, when they ask me, in my church or whatever, and they say, what do you do? And they say, well, I own a small company. We write business management software for landscapers. Usually there are 2 questions that come to their mind. One of them was, why in the world do landscapers need software? They obviously don't understand the business, right? But then the second thing that comes to my mind is they say, oh, you write design software to make landscaping beautiful, like Pro Landscapes or something like that, right? I'm like, no. The only 2 colors in our software is black and red, and you hope that there's a lot more black than there is red. That's all it is. But I tell them, I said, no, I'm not that. What I like to create and what I really enjoy is not necessarily beautiful landscaping. I can appreciate beautiful landscaping, but I'm not the guy that creates it. I'm no good at that. But what I do like to create is a beautiful business. And they said, what's a beautiful business? And I tell them a beautiful business is a system that you create. You put all these pieces together. You create this business that exists as like a little box, and you turn the crank and dollar bills come out. And people get blessed. Well, like what? Like employees get paid. It's nice, right? It's nice when employees get paid. The owner gets paid. The customers get a service that they enjoy and they like. All that stuff with business is a huge blessing. People diss it, particularly in this political environment that we are. They're always dissing. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go and watch movies and like 007 and that kind of thriller kind of movies, almost always it's the big corporate guy that's the mean, nasty guy, isn't it? Have you ever noticed that? I'm like, why are they always putting the company owner as being the guy who's trying to ruin the environment, trying to take advantage of people, trying to do? It's like, how come we as business owners became the villains in this whole thing, you know? But it's easy because there aren't as many business owners as there are regular people, and so they can pick on us. But anyway, so the beautiful business is something that you create a system, and that's what CLIP is all about. CLIP is sort of the center for you to create a system that actually starts to run itself, and so that you can walk away from it. I say, if people ask me, Dave, what's your ultimate goal in your life? And my ultimate goal, I am highly religious, etc., is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. But besides that, it's to become useless. They look at me like, huh? What do you mean by become useless? Well, right now I own 5 different companies and, have lots of people working for us and stuff like that. People probably wouldn't look at me and say, you're useless. But my goal is to become useless. Why? Because as a business owner, I have seen, the next book that I'm working on actually is on delegation, how to delegate, how to get out of the fray, how to move away from it. Because I've seen a lot of business owners that say their business can't exist for more than 5 minutes if they're not there. All these questions and answers are coming through them. They're trying to take care of everything, and they're the only ones that are smart enough to do anything and make any decisions and all that kind of stuff. And I've looked at that and I've said, that's not where I want to live. That is not where I want to live. I want to live in the place where I can create the systems and hand them over to other people that can run them, because I don't like to run things. I like to make things. So there are plenty of people out there that like to run things. They just like to do it. Like, give me a job and let me do it. And that's like, that's great. We need you. But us serial entrepreneurs, we just want to start the next thing. We want to get into the next one. And so to become useless, I want to create tools and give enough tools to everybody that's doing their work so that they can do their work without me having to have anything to do with it. 5 weeks ago today, I had knee replacement surgery. So if I limp or something like that, that's what it is. It kind of hurts, but I'm getting up there. This is like my first, quote, outing from being sitting useless on the couch. But it was kind of interesting because one of the things is, as you've been going over CLIP and stuff like that, both CLIP XC and CLIP ITC have this automatic thing where your posted work will be emailed to somebody. So I get an email of the posted work that happens in CLIP ITC, which is our Murfreesboro company, CLIP Lawn Care of Middle Tennessee, and I get an email from CLIP Lawn Care of Maryland also whenever they post work. So those emails come into me natural. Now, why am I saying this? Because I'm coming out of my surgery was early in the morning. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I just hoped that the surgeon had, drunk enough coffee and he was awake. Not too much, not shaking. But anyway, so by the time I start coming out of my anesthesia by that evening and I'm starting to come alive and starting to figure out what's happening around me and stuff like that, I, of course, pick up my phone and I check my emails. And there's an email from CLIP Lawn Care of Middle Tennessee saying this much work was done. And there's another email coming in from CLIP Lawn Care of Maryland saying this much work was done. And I looked at my wife and I said, that's like the epitome of uselessness. I was under anesthesia and my business was producing for me while I was at. Now, what does that do for me? It doesn't make me sit around and lay around, although a couple weeks into laying around with my leg up and icing it and stuff like that, my wife said, you know, if I didn't know you were a workaholic, I'd start to get worried. I'm sitting there watching documentaries. There are a lot of documentaries on Amazon. Did you know that? Anyway, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about revenue tracking, how to get 30% profit. I think what this does is it sort of wraps it around, and this is thanks to Mark Purcell. He's the guy who sort of put me on this. So what is revenue tracking? Instead of, sometimes we call it job costing, and it is the job costing report in CLIP. But what revenue tracking is knowing which jobs produce the most. And why is that important to us? Well, we're going to look at this. We're going to look at the details of it. Why is knowing which jobs produce the most important to us? I want to track my revenue and see where it is. Let's start looking through some of these principles. So, what's the only unrenewable resource in the world? Thank you. You've already seen this, right? We've been through this before? No? No, he's just smart. See that? There you go. There's a smart guy. So, yeah, not if you're answering questions. All right, you can't take that title from me. I got it. All right. So time is the only unrenewable resource. Why? Because once it's gone, it is gone. How many of us have been through how many years of conferences back when we were young, you know, and all that kind of stuff? Carol still looks young, but I don't anymore. I got 6 grandchildren, you know. It's been a long time. I can't go back and redo that, can I? I can't go back and undo it. I can't do that. You guys have spent now either today or today and yesterday here. And that's an amazing commitment that you've made, because you have taken a couple, either 1 or 2 days, or probably more than that, to get here, you know, check into the airport, the hotel and all that. You have taken that time and you have given it, you have put it in our hands and said, teach us something. We are going to sit here and going to waste our whole day. I hope that you give me something valuable in exchange for that. That's much more valuable than whatever the 200, 300, whatever dollars you spent. Much more valuable, because today will never be lived again. You'll never be able to do that. And I just want that to sink in, because it really is. They say my dad passed away, I guess almost 2 years ago, and I was there for him, and that was great. I was there for the last 2 weeks of his life and stuff like that. And he used to have a saying. He's like, what's the one good thing about old age? Do you know what it is? It doesn't last forever. Oh, that's pretty morbid. But you've got to, but we have to understand that this is serious stuff we're talking about. We only have one chance to do 2017, and it's almost over, isn't it? Are you amazed that it's almost over? We're in November. We're writing 11 on our checks, right? 7 today? 11/7/2017. Pretty soon we're not going to be writing 2017 anymore. And when I was young, I thought it would be amazing to get to the year 2000. I just thought, I'm going to be so old. I'll be 40 years old by then. You know? Oh, my goodness. So, what are we selling? What do you sell in your company? Most companies here are doing lawn maintenance. They're doing something to do with lawns. Doing lawn maintenance, you might be doing chemical applications. You might be doing other things. But what are you really selling? And, of course, for Clip Lawn Care, we have these little brochures that say, get your weekends back. And they have it on the backs of their T-shirts sometimes, like, get your weekends back. What are we selling? We're selling time to the customer. We're selling them time and expertise. Why? So that they don't have to get their mower out. They don't have to go out there and spend all day Saturday mowing their grass, right? Instead, we show up. Or if it's a commercial building or an HOA or something like that, it's the same thing. We're selling them time so that they don't have to do it. So really what we're selling is not cut grass. We're not selling the chem apps. We're selling the time. And then the expertise that goes along with it, because we can see what's going on with that property, and we have more expertise, we can do it faster. A lot of times people say time equals quality. The more time you spend on something, the better quality it is. How many people would sort of agree with that? And I say sort of because you know I'm going to trap you if you say yes, right? But somebody do me the favor of saying yes. John, okay, John did it, all right. Well, you're wrong, John. Now, it's not necessarily true. It could be. I mean, you look at something intricate and you say, wow, that took a lot of time to do. Well, that's true. But if we sit down here, I've been programming for the last 30 years of my life, right? So we sit down here and let's put 2 computers over here and let's both create a program. You and me, we'll both create a program that does something. I don't know, whatever. Who's going to take longer? Probably you. Probably you. You're like, okay, well, how do I even open a program? How do I even get started in it, right? Who's going to do a better quality job at programming? Probably me. because I've been doing this. So that's where the expertise. So time doesn't necessarily equal quality. What equals quality is expertise and time. And we've seen that. We see somebody who's really good at something, they just go, and boom, it's done. And you're like, wow, how did you do that? Right? Proverbs says, you see a man skilled in his work, he will not serve before mean men, he'll be served before kings. And that's true. You see somebody who's really skilled at what they're doing, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. You make it look easy, right? And when they make it look easy, you know it's good. So what are we selling? We're selling time and expertise. I watch my guys out there mowing a lawn, and it's like a ballet. My goodness, they do it so nicely, so well. So what are your limits? Your limits are man hours. Man hours equals time. So let's take an example. Let's put up a fictitious company. It has 8 employees. They work 40 hours a week. Well, nobody works 40 hours a week in this business, but let's say they do, okay? They work 40 hours a week, and they work 45 weeks in a mowing season. So they're probably somewhere around here, a little bit farther south, okay? So they have 14,400 hours. Do you understand why they have 14,400 hours? Because that's all they can sell. 40 hours a week times 45 times 8 guys. You can sell 14,400 hours. That's it. You can't sell any more. So that's a limit to what they can sell. So what's the most important thing you can learn about your customers is who's going to pay me the most for each one of those hours. If all I have at the beginning of the season is 14,400 hours to sell, then I better make sure I'm selling them at the highest price possible without pricing myself out of the market. Let me tell you a very sad story. Last year, in our Clip Lawn Care in Maryland, we did $760,000 worth of business. We had 12 guys, all on the H-2B program from Mexico. We produced I think it was about 32% profit. So on $760,000 at 3 times 7, 21, we had a little over $200,000 of profit. That's after paying everybody, after paying and I had nothing to do with it. I probably spent a week and a half to 2 weeks managing it over the whole year, the course of the year. That's what I call a beautiful business. That's why I named it a beautiful business. That's what I call a beautiful business. Would anybody agree with me? You got a business running out there. You have nothing to do with it. All you do is you get the emails every day, and it tells you that, okay, this is what happened, though. In their infinite wisdom, Congress last year, around this time, before the election, so it's not Trump's fault. You can blame everything else on Trump. No. But Congress, in their ultimate wisdom, eliminated the returning worker exemption on H-2B, and they cut it down to 60,000 visas. So the year before, there had been something like 250,000 workers, particularly in the green industry, that had come in as temporary workers. 250,000. And last year, or for this year, 2017, it was limited to 60. Okay, so imagine this. You have 250,000 workers, and now you only have 60. What's going to happen? Only have 60,000. Well, that's what happened is we did not get our visas. We did not get a single one of them. So we're sitting here in April, and we desperately are trying to hire people. And we're sitting here in April, and I'm looking at April 15th in Maryland is when you're all out cutting. Okay? And we're like the beginning of April, and I'm staring down 550 lawns, and I have not a single experienced worker. The workers that I got at that point, which I hired almost 30 of them and ended up with one at the end of the season. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys have lived this. Well, now I got to live it also. The workers that I had, one of them, I kid you not, one of them, I'm trying to explain to him that when you mow, you have to mow this direction so that the grass flows towards the grass instead of onto the driveway. And you would not believe it. He asked me, he's like, oh, we're on the mower. The mower is going. It is blowing grass out the chute. And he asked me, oh, does the grass only come out one side? And I say, you see that solid metal piece on the side of the deck? You see how this has an opening? That's what makes the grass come out this way instead of that way. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, labor. And that was the good one. Another guy we started, I mean, he was a good, am I too far in front of this thing? He was a good mechanic. Jason was his name. He was a really good mechanic. We were desperate. We were finding him. There was this halfway house that took ex-cons, and we went there, and we're like, yeah, we'll take him. And so this guy, he's a good mechanic, small engine mechanic. He was doing great. And then he says, oh, I have a court date. He didn't come back. He's still in jail. I have these stories. This is just from this year. And so as I'm staring at it, I told you I had knee replacement surgery. As I'm staring down this, I get calls from this one HOA. We only had one HOA. And he's from a friend of mine. You guys have to come out here and mow. And I'm sitting in my recliner, and I turn my leg a certain way, and boom, I lost the last part of my meniscus, and I couldn't move my leg. And I told him, I said, Dan, even if I could go out there and mow, I can't, because I can't walk. And I'm over there trying to fix, I mean, I'm doing everything. I'm fixing the lawnmowers. I'm trying to get the guys, welding. I'm doing it all. Like I hadn't done in 20-some years, you know. And the guys are looking at me and saying, well, why don't you fix this for me? Why don't you fix that for me? I'm like, oh, my goodness. And, oh, we have to be off by 3 o'clock this afternoon because I've got a movie I want to go to or something like that. And you're like, oh. So I know. So what do you do? That's a sad state of affairs. Well, they passed a bill where they released more H-2B visas, and then the Department of Homeland Security, they passed that in May, and we thought, cool, okay, we'll get our guys back. And then the Department of Homeland Security said, no, we're not going to release them. We don't think we should. What do you mean by you don't think we should? And then by the time August 1st comes, then they release some, and then we got four of our guys back, and it's night and day. We lost 30-some% of our business. 30-some% of our business. So we're looking at 550 lawns to mow. And I say, obviously we can't do that. There's no way. I can't go out. I can't do it myself. My leg's not working. Besides that, I don't want to mow. So do we just fold the whole business? A lot of businesses folded. A lot of businesses around us, a lot of places, they just folded down. They just said, we're not going to do this. A lot of people were using H-2B visas. And they're just like, we can't. We're done. Out. And it's not only the lawn maintenance. It affected tourism. It affected the crabbing. It affected. So last Thursday, I hobbled over into D.C. and we did a fly-in lobbying. It's the first time I've ever done lobbying. We did a fly-in lobbying. I went to see senators and congressmen, and I just explained our story. I said, here's the story. Here's what it is. And I had to fire one of my Americans because the business is too small. I can't handle it. So anyway. So I'm going to tell you what happened. Stick with that story because it's important to what's going on with this whole thing. So if you only have 14,000 hours to sell, imagine you're downtown D.C. and you're trying to sell a jar full of pretzels. To maximize your profit on that jar full of pretzels, you want to make sure that you sell each pretzel for the highest amount possible, right? You don't want to price yourself out of the market, but you don't want to leave money on the table either. So you need to figure that out. So that's why we have to know who pays us the most. So let's do the arithmetic. Let's say the company's gross sales are 400,000 and total production hours are 14,400. We talked about how we were going to do this. So it's easy to come up with the dollars per hour, right? All we do is we just take the 400,000 divided by 14,400 hours. If the only thing you're selling are man hours, then we can do this. Equals $27.77 per hour. If they had a profit at the end of the year, this is a good time for you guys to run this. If you haven't run this for your company, do it, because it's a really good exercise. If we had a profit at the end of the year of $28,000, then that means we have 7%. So what is the business cost to run this company? The answer is up there. You can just tell me. $372, right? $372,000. In other words, if I make any less than $372,000, what's happening? I'm a loss, right? Paying out of my pocket, which I did this year. I actually had to write checks to the company to keep it alive. If I do more than 372, then I've got a little bit of profit left. Okay, so now we know this. This is extremely important for us, and it's a real easy. Is this hard? Now let's say you're doing, just to show you how this is, and we have some spreadsheets on our website that you can use to figure this out yourself. Just plug in the numbers. There can be some more complications. If you're doing landscape installation, you got to pull out all the cost of materials, because really all we're looking for is the man hours. We can't really sell those trees. Home Depot sells the trees without installing them. That's fine. They can do that. We're not Home Depot. We're not going to be able to sell the tree without installing it. So we want to take that out because that's not man hours. If you're doing projects, if you're using ClipXC and you're using projects, you got to do that too. Take out all of that. Figure out just what my production hours are, because that's what we sell. Everything else is an ancillary. It's just not there. Don't even worry about it. Okay, so we did this for this company, and we just keep it easy. So how do we figure out what the man-hour rate is? Well, first off, what I want to show you here is a typical P&L for a company like ours is going to have a huge labor. I don't know what your labor number is. This one right here says 66%. Maybe it's 50%. Maybe it's 60%, right? Isn't that where your labor amount? Yeah. It's normal because what do we sell? We sell labor. Everything else follows. So if I can control labor costs, what happens? I can control the company because everything else goes along with it. I don't really care about the gas. We have the fuel surcharge is built into Clip and Clip ITC, Clip XC and Clip ITC. Yeah. But you know what? Your fuel costs at the end of the year are almost nil. Don't matter. Fuel could double. It would hurt us. We wouldn't like it. I'd hate paying that at the pump. But fuel could double and it really wouldn't affect our company that much. Labor goes up. Oh, my goodness. That's going to affect our company. So anyway, that's just to show that labor is a big part of our business. So, go to the next one. So, okay, yeah, here we go. So tell me which job is better. We have two jobs here. We got ABC Shopping Center, $100 per service, or we have XYZ Shopping Center is only $50 per service. Which is the better job? We don't have enough information. A lot of people, and the reason I put this up is because a lot of people, if you're talking to them and you say, tell me who your best customer is, or somebody will ask us, say, we want Clip to tell us what the best customer is. I say, well, number one is we have a job costing report, which will tell you. But number two is you haven't given me enough information. What do you consider to be your best customer? And sometimes it's like, oh, it's this big park over here that pays me $1,000 a month. Well, they might pay you $1,000 a month, but if it takes you a long time to do it, that might not be your best customer. Just because they pay you a lot of gross doesn't mean they're your best customer. I'll tell you what happened to us when we did this. Now, if we look at the more detail and we find out that ABC Shopping takes 5.26 hours and XYZ Shopping takes 1.39 hours. Okay, now, do you have enough information to tell me which is the better job? Yes, you probably didn't do the math yourself, but I'll do it for you. One of them is real good. There you go. That's all I needed to know. Here's where it goes interesting. It's okay, so we take the 5.26, $100, $19 an hour. XYZ Shopping at $50 takes 1.39. It's $35 or $36 a man hour. Okay, now we're starting to see, well, the $19 a man hour, what's the first thing that hits you with that? What's wrong with that? You got to be losing, because how much are you paying the guy? You're paying somebody to mow their lawn. Exactly. But the laborer themselves, let's say they're making $12 an hour, which I saw there's a chicken place out here saying they're paying $10 an hour. So if we're going to get somebody to work out in the 102-degree weather, and 80% humidity, it's probably going to be more than that. So if you're paying them $12, and then you have the labor overhead burden, right? So you've got the Medicare, and you've got all the other stuff that goes on. And then you got the management. It's costing you more than $19 just to pay him. And that's not counting the depreciation on the truck, the equipment, the gas, the overhead, everything else. So yes, you're paying somebody. So, and this is what I love to do. So if we take that, if we say if all of our jobs were like ABC, my gross sales would be 19.01. Remember, how many hours do we have to sell? 14,400, right? So we take $19 times 14,400, we end up with $273,000 in gross sales. But if we recall, our business costs to run this company were $372,000. Now, one of those numbers seems to be higher than the other, doesn't it? And what that means is, like I said before, whether we have black or red, this is red. Now, it's black on the slide, but it's red. We're actually having to pump $98,000 into this business, which means exactly what John said. I'm paying to do that lawn. I just found out that I'm paying to do that lawn. Now, I have a saying that I use in our business, because every once in a while I'll have somebody that says they don't want to pay me, they don't want to pay the ESA, they don't want to pay the monthly payment and everything else. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. And they say, well, I'm going to stop using your software. And I have a saying that I say to myself, how many non-paying customers do I need to be successful? Same thing for you guys. Business is business. It is what it is. We can be friends and everything else, but the bottom line is this is what it is. So with this customer, with the $19, the ABC, this is what's happening. Now, if you take XYZ, it's a whole different matter. If we do $36 times 14,400, those are the pretzels we have to sell, right? We end up with $575,000. Our business cost remains the same at $372,000, which means we would have $203,000 in profit. This next is a big, complicated business question. See if you get it right. If you don't, leave now. Wait, where is it? Oh, there it is. Here's the big, complicated question. Which one would you rather have? A $98,000 loss or a $203,000 profit? Again, if you get this one wrong, just go home. You don't need to be here anymore. You become too useless. Now, that's pretty simple, and you're saying, okay, Dave, that's great, but that's theory. It's up there. It's like, that's pretty. I like that. I like your graphics. I like the colors. Not the red one, but I like the other one, right? So how do we do this revenue track? How do we get to that point of understanding that? And the way we do it is we have to track every dollar, every hour, and every dollar on every one of our customers in order to get that last number. If we can't get to that number, we can't make our decisions. And that's why in CLIP, as Jonathan was saying, and I'm sure Bill has been saying it in here too, is like record times, record times, record times, record times, record times. Use Clip2Go, use ClipITC, use whatever it is that you need to use to get the information into there. Because so many people, especially when they first buy Clip, all they want to do is hit yes, 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 the job is done. That is really cool and that's really neat. And if you've been doing things by hand, that is like life-changing to you. But it's not going to change your business until you start getting this data that's necessary. So you need to record those times because we need to find out what's going on. Now, I told you, I've been telling you about our sad story that happened to us this year. It is sad. But this is what happened. These are you can come up here and take a look at them later if you want to. I'll leave them up here. But these are our job costing reports from the prior year, from 2016, I guess. And what this has, this is our job costing report, and what this has, there's actually 4 binders. I'm missing the first one. I start here with number 2. But you can probably see that the number 2 says $45 to $67 per hour. If you look through these, you'll find out that we have, here's an example. So there's a job costing report, and it has every visit that we did with this customer, how long it took us, and how much we charge. Well, we can divide that out, and we can see this whole account, with everything together, is worth $48.13 per hour, per man per hour. Now I can compare, and the job costing report in Clip will print out, it'll sort it by the lowest to the highest. So now, talking about my sad story and my sob story that I have for you, when I found out that we were going to have to get rid of at least 200 customers out of the 550. How do I decide which customers to get rid of? Yeah, that's why we don't have a book number one. When I'm staring it down and I'm saying I don't have 14,400 pretzels to sell, I only have 1,000 pretzels to sell now. I'm going to grab this book, which is $83 and up, and I'm going to see how many of these customers I can keep. And when I can keep all of these, then I'll go to this book and figure out how many of these I can keep. So why? What does that do for me? My profit per. Now, it won't increase the whole profit because I still have unskilled labor that has never done it and wants to leave at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and da-da-da-da-da. But at least what I'm doing is I'm keeping my best customers. So that even if I have a hard time this year, next year, I will not have kept this book over here. I will have kept these, which are my better customers. But if I didn't have this to go off of, what would I have done? See, so it's sort of like the negative. Yeah, folded. Forget it. I'm done. It's over. So it's sort of like the negative. But what I did was I talked to Allison, my general manager, when all this stuff is coming on us like a freight train and we're understanding what's going on and what's going to happen. I said, we are going to be a different company at the end of this season. There's no doubt we are going to be a different company. But we're going to be stronger because we are going to say no an awful lot. And we're going to end up a stronger company. We might not see the results this year, but we'll see them next year. Because we'll still be in business. And we can do that because we have this data. So the job costing report is so crucial. So you have to track everything in there. Example of job costing would be this. You can take a look at this. This is an old report. But here you've got George Kress. And you see our average dollars per hour for the whole account is only $24 an hour. So that's not that good. And we compare them with Maryland Institute, and we see that our average Maryland Institute is $40 per hour. And Clip does this. He crunches all the numbers for you. But you've got to put those times in. If you don't put the times in, you're not going to get them out. So it has $40. So what happens if somebody said, and this is quite normal. In fact, Allison, my general manager, her second year of working with me, came to me with this exact question. She said, our customers like us and everything else. Why don't we just raise prices across the board? You go to your accountant and you say, I want to make more money. Who here doesn't want to make more money? Right? So he says, I want to make more money. Your accountant will tell you, well, if you raise prices, you will make money. Does that make sense? It does. Simple, makes sense. No, it doesn't. Because we live in a free market. Government can do that. Government can say, well, we're raising the price on the toll, and it's like tough beans. You got to pay it. That's all there is to it. And there's no competition. I can't go to a different MVA. I have to go to the one of my state, right? But we as business people, we can't do that. There are other market forces involved. So what happens if you go to your accountant and he says, the way you do this is you raise prices across the board by 5%. Look, you'll make more money. At the end of the year, you'll find out you make less money. Why? How is that possible? Because this is what happens. You write out a nice little letter that says, I'm raising prices because, costs went up, gas went up, taxes are up. Basically, it's a nice letter. But what you're really saying to the customer is you're saying, please go out and shop and see if I'm the cheapest. So using those two examples that I said there, Maryland Institute says, man, we really liked this guy. We really liked Common Grounds. It was a great company. We've been doing business with them for a long time. But they're raising our prices, so let's check and see if they're still good. And they go out and they find out that, what's the name of your company? What? Mains River? Wind River. They find out that Wind River, he's aggressive, and he comes in at like 20% cheaper than Common Grounds. And they're like, I've never dealt with these people before, but at 20%, you got to try it. Sorry, John. See ya. George Kress, he receives the same letter, says your thing is going up by 10%. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go shop. And he goes to Wind River, and Wind River says, no, our estimate is higher than what you're getting because John's giving you a deal here. And so George Crest says, I'm with you. I'll pay the 10%. It doesn't matter. I'll stay with you. What just happened to John? I hope not, John. Don't do that. He took this book and he threw it away. And he kept this book. This book got a little bit better, but it's not worth much. And then you get to the end of your year and you go back to your accountant and you say, I didn't make enough money. I need to make more money. And your accountant says, I told you, you need to raise prices. Go raise prices again, John. You guys see that? We don't raise prices. We don't raise prices unless we're doing the $19 and we're like, yeah, we don't really care if we lose you. Actually, we'll be better off. So let's take this. Let's put one more example up there. Let's say there's two companies. They're both doing $2 million a year. They have 700 clients. They get together at the beginning of the season and they say, hey, how's you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Hey, you know what? Let's make more money. We're both pulling down $200,000 in profit over here. We're going to make more money this year. Okay, that's cool. So the one guy says the way to make more money is to get more customers. Grow your way out. They say entrepreneurs always feel that way. Entrepreneurs will never say no, right? We always say, well, we can get more business. We can do better, right? We're optimists. But if we look at their client base, we find out that 350 of their clients are making a 15%, 175 are making a 20% profit, which are, high numbers. But there's 175 which are doing a negative 10%, and that's how they end up with the 200. So the one guy goes out and he's like, I'm going to get 100 more customers. Okay, what does it take to get 100 more customers? 100 more customers, yeah. But it takes marketing, takes another truck, a couple guys, some more equipment. Your dealer loves you for it. Your dealer's happy. Like, that's cool. Yeah, you're growing. I like $1,000 in profit instead of 200. Did you just gain 28,000? Yeah. Who doesn't want $28,000? Yeah. Cool. That's great. That's wonderful. And he's like, yeah, look at what I did. I'm part of the big boys. Instead of doing 2 million, I'm doing 2 million. No, it says 2 million. No, it's more than that. Anyway, I'm up above the 2 million. I'm one of the big boys. Proud of me, right? But the other guy, listen to this job costing report, and what he did is he found these 175 because he looked in that binder right there. He found these 175 clients, and he just raised them where they were at zero, just so they're not losing me money anymore. What happened to his profit? How much? 250. But the guy that added 100 customers ended up with what? $28,000 more in profit. The guy who just identified the 175 that were losers and brought them up to zero ended up with his profit at $250,000. You guys see what's happening here? I want to let this sink in because this is reality. This is what happens out there in the marketplace. Is you have to understand you're playing this game. Now, if he brought his 175 clients up to zero, and the only way he can do that is by doing a job costing and seeing the report and saying, I need to raise these guys. That's the only way he can do it. Otherwise, he doesn't know. He can't raise prices across the board. We already saw what happens with that. So, if he brought him up to zero, what else could he have done instead? Ooh, he could have fired him. What would that have done? If he brings them up to zero, that's one thing. But if he gets rid of them completely, what does that do to his business? Oh, he's got more hours to sell. That's right. He also gets rid of the bottom tier of his labor, right? Those guys that are just headachy and come in, yeah. Equipment. Have spare equipment sitting on the lot now. He could sell it. So he could do that. The other thing he could have done, that would even raise his profit even higher. Because now he's not managing those people. He's not managing that stuff. Right? It would be even higher than 250. But on top of that, what else could he have done? He could have fired them, and that would have raised his profit. What else? Instead of raising them to 0, why not raise them to 10%? Yeah, could have done that. Or one of my favorites is he could have sold them to his other guy. You need more customers. Here's 175. Yeah. You guys see what happens? If you have these notebooks, this is what you can do. It's all based on recording the times in clip. That's what it's all about. And if you do, you can become extremely profitable. So lots of examples I have. This one is out of Florida. Lowest dollars per man hour was $44.99, $45, $600,000 in gross sales, doing 38% profit after owner salary. 38% profit after owner salary on $600,000. That's a pretty small company. It's not a large company. There's a company here in Murfreesboro that is trying to sell to me. I don't know how they heard about me because they don't use Clip. They haven't read my books. Somehow they found out that I was in town, and they want to sell their company to me. And I'm looking at their P&Ls, and I'm saying, why? Why do I want to buy? There's nothing here that I want. So what would you rather have, 5% of a $2 million company or 38% of a $600,000 company? Again, if you miss this one, just get up and go home. No need to go any farther than that. See, so Clip2Go or Clip ITC, that's the thing, is you've got to get this. Is it a toy or is it a tool? You've got to get your guys to start entering those times in. You've got to get them, and you've got to get them accurate. Because once you have that accuracy, you're going to be able to look at these job costing reports, and you are going to fine-tune and fine-tune and fine-tune your business until it is a profit-making machine. And you say, well, am I being the evil villain company owner of the movies? No, you are not. Why not? Because we are finding the customers that are perfect for our services. We have a certain level of service. We have a certain expectation. We have a certain communications. We have a certain everything. And we find the customers that want and need that most, and we fulfill that need. And they're willing to pay for it. We have found in looking at these, and if I encourage you, I'm leaving them up here, come over here in the break and take a look, especially at the end of this one, which is some of our highest numbers. This one is $228 a man hour that we produce. Now, what is it? I think, oh, it's just chemical apps. All right, that's fine. That tells us something, though, doesn't it? Like chemical apps are producing 250, but there's a couple of them in here that are townhouses. They're just townhouses. And all we do, I mean, their man-hour rating is like a 0.15 or something. You know, it's like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. And all we do is we get out of the truck and bring the trimmer down and trim their front and then get back in the truck and go on. Well, they don't produce a lot. I think we have a minimal gate charge of $20. So they only produce $20, but we start looking at those and we start saying, well, why can't we get all of those townhouses in a row? If they're producing $160 per man hour, why can't we get them all? And what if we reduced our gate charge from $20 to $15? What would that do? Well, with that information, you can answer those questions. And we can start going after them. We can start saying, these are the people we want to go. This is what we want to do. So you need to do that. Your business is a product. I love E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I talk about his books all the time. You want to read a book, read that one. E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It changed. I read it in the late 90s, and it changed completely my outlook on what business is and how it works. So innovation, quantification, orchestration. What does that mean? Innovate. Let's do something different. Let's do something different. You're going home from this conference, class, whatever, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this. Well, good. But then quantify it. That means put numbers to it. Figure out what's happening. Is it better? Is it worse? If we don't quantify it, we know nothing. Innovation for innovation's sake is kind of ridiculous. We've all been to modern art museums. It's innovation without, anyway, not always. Some people like it. I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, I'm not opinionated, am I? No, not at all. So innovation, but then you got to quantify it. We got to put numbers to it. We got to find out what it is. And then after that, it's orchestration. Orchestration is when you bring all the parts and pieces together and you make them work. So this is only part of it. If this struck a chord to you, there's 4 seminars that I give that are called the four keys to maximum profitability with minimal management, and this is one of them that we just went over. This is one of them. The other ones are systems. Anyway, knowing your customer. 4 of them. You can look them up on our website. They're out there, and you can get them. But anyway, if you put these parts and pieces together, you create what we call the beautiful business, and you become what? Useless. Thank you. Useless. And doing the same thing in a different way, in the same way, and demanding a different result. It's like, why should you care? Do you like being awake at night? Do you like working with dirt? Do you like having green ankles? No. Why are you in business? To provide for yourself, your family, and your employees, and your customers, I would add to that. So you need to lead. It is unfair for you to do anything less than your best for your employees. So lead, follow, or get out of the way. That's what Lee Iacocca said, and that's what I'm encouraging you guys to do. I hope I put a little bit of fire in you that says, yes, I can do it. I can do better. I can tweak this company. It can become super profitable. And I don't really care if somebody comes to me and says, well, what size company are you? And you say, oh, I'm only $600,000 a year. And they're like, oh, well, we're $3 million. Right. And you make what? 1% profit at the end of it? And you got all these headaches? I'm 600 and I'm starting 3 other companies. And I'm pulling down 200 and some thousand out of it. That's a beautiful business. That's where you want to be. You want to be that silent. If you get a chance, read the Millionaire Next Door book. That's where you want to be. It's not a big deal. Here's what I do, and I do it really well. So that's what it is. That's what CLIP is here. So it's a tool. Hopefully you can do it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. So what are we doing now? I'm going to put the wall back up. Okay. We're going to take a break, but I'll answer any questions. Anybody have questions about this? Nope. Makes sense? Yeah? Nope. I am so good that nobody has any questions at the end of it at all. That's how good I am. Oh, you just killed my record. Oh, I really wasn't that good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You had a question? No. Yep. And you have the same in the afternoon drive time back from the job, and then unloading. Yeah. Where do those jobs, they're the whole day. Which jobs should they be accounted for the percentage of the job cost? Well, I would create a separate customer called overhead, and then put those jobs under that customer overhead, and then he would be your number 1 customer in this job costing list, right? Because he would be $0 per hour. In fact, if you looked at our number 1 book, I think I'm the first one because my lawn is free because my guys cut it. So I'm the worst customer we have. But over the whole company, you're going to have to grab that time because you're paying your guys to do that, right? So you're going to have to grab that time. You're going to have to throw it over the whole company. So to come up with your basic job costing rate, which we have a spreadsheet that helps you with that, that would be added in as overhead. And then you'd say, okay, I need to make at least $45 per man per hour. And that covers the overhead. And then you would look at this and you would say, okay, this one starts at 45. This guy is okay, but everything before him I have to raise. That doesn't go to one customer. That goes to the whole company. Sort of makes sense? Not at all? Well, no, I like what you do is where you create a separate job that says arrive, travel from the shop to the first job. So that can be absorbed by that fictitious customer called overhead. And then you'll get real numbers for everybody else from then on. Because you don't want to hammer that. You'd always be getting rid of your first job of the day every year. Yeah. But if you have a half hour or 40 minutes to your first one, which is right. So your first customer can't get hit with that amount, or it's going to be unreal. You're going to raise their prices and they'll drop you and you go to the next guy, and every year, exactly. Every year you'll be dropping the first one of each day. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, the question is over 50% really normal for labor costs? What's normal? I mean, I would say between 40 and 60 is normal. Yeah. And Lawn and Landscape has done lots of studies on that. You can go to the Lawn and Landscape website and you can see their studies that they do it. But that is between 40 and 60, I'd say is normal. Obviously, if you're closer to 60, let's figure out what's going on. Let's go to piecework. That's going to solve a lot of your labor costs. If you're at 40, oh my goodness, that's great. It's wonderful. So, anything else? No? Yeah. I have a seminar on piecework, but no, I don't think I'm going to be talking about it. But the book is there. It's in the book. And we've got a few people in the class that are doing it. So, okay. All right. Okay, I'll take this stuff off.